The Pac-12 made big news this week when they announced their alliance with the ACC and Big Ten conferences. So we wanted to hop in a video with the Ducks Digest Roundtable crew here. We got Dylan Rubenking, Nick Batty, and talk about Oregon football's best matchups in this so-called alliance era that we look like we're headed towards here. So kind of just to lay a little bit of the foundation, we're still waiting for, a lot of scheduling details to come out. There's some TV deals in place that could make things a little interesting here. But it looks like there's going to be, at least one matchup between an ACC school and a Big Ten school for the Pac-12 schools. So let's kick it off with Dylan Rubenking, and he'll give us his best ACC matchup and Big Ten matchup, and then for ground rules, we couldn't pick the same schools. So with that, let's have at it, Dylan.
Yeah, so I went with Clemson for ACC. I think that's kind of an easy choice. Clemson's kind of the cream of the crop when it comes to college football these days. 2 national titles, 6 straight college football playoff appearances, and I feel like once we get to a point where Oregon and Clemson could face each other on the gridiron, that Clemson's still going to be towards the top, and Oregon could be as well. They've never played each other on the football field, come to find out. I didn't know that. In fact, Oregon and mostly the Pac-12 teams, they don't really play the ACC very often. The Ducks have only played 3 ACC opponents in the last 20 years, Virginia twice, Florida State in the Rose Bowl, and then Wake Forest a long, long time ago. And so being able to have a game like Clemson for the Ducks would be huge to put them on the map, especially if it's, a primetime game or an early afternoon game. That would be huge for them. And then for the Big Ten, I went with Penn State. Oregon played Penn State in the 95 Rose Bowl. Penn State was undefeated. That was the Joe Paterno era. And for Oregon, that was Rich Brooks' final season. And Oregon lost that Rose Bowl, but they've actually played each other 3 times before that. Oregon last won, I believe it was 1964. That was at Beaver Stadium in State College in Pennsylvania. So I feel like just imagine Oregon with their flashy uniforms and a whiteout and at Penn State at the Beaver Stadium would just be electric. I couldn't imagine a better road experience for a Ducks fan than going to Beaver Stadium.
Yeah, let's break that down for a sec. So are you saying that both of these matchups would be on the road in Death Valley and then at Beaver Stadium?
If they were, I feel like that would be pretty insane, especially for a lot of guys who are like from the West Coast. Obviously, having a game at Autzen would be electric as well. I'm just thinking, if it was on the road, that would be a much different experience. And I feel like because it would probably be a prime time or an early afternoon game, if it was on the road and on the East Coast, I feel like that would definitely drive some more attention to people that pay attention to those conferences more than the Pac-12.
Yeah, I think those would be great matchups as well. When you're looking at how dominant Clemson's been in recent years, definitely a good measuring stick as far as where the Ducks stack up there. They find themselves going against Clemson for a pretty decent amount of recruits. And then Penn State, I feel like they're kind of that team in the Big Ten that's been right there, and they've had multiple opportunities to really solidify their standing nationally and try to knock off Ohio State, but just haven't gotten it done. So I think those are 2 awesome matchups, definitely some of the premier ones. Those are kind of just my thoughts. Nick, what do you think of these matchups?
Yeah, I think these are a couple great matchups with obviously some blue bloods in the sport right now. Of course, Clemson is, top 2 or 3 in the past decade or so, and Penn State not far behind. So, if Oregon were able to match up against these teams, that's must-watch television for sure.
Yeah, I love it. So let's see. So those are two road matchups, Clemson, Penn State, and the ACC and the Big Ten. Anything else you guys wanted to say, either one of you, about kind of these hypothetical alliance matchups for the Ducks?
Yeah, I just think Oregon against Clemson would be, I feel like for some recruits that could be like, oh, whoever wins this game would, make my top 10 kind of thing, maybe make my top 5. I feel like that would be, I've just like this Oregon-Ohio State game in September. I feel like a lot of recruits are going to be watching that just to see who comes on top and, maybe has a more predominant program right now.
Yeah, for sure. I couldn't agree more. Just from a recruiting standpoint, going to, South Carolina, going to Pennsylvania, going to, these different time zones and different just areas of the country. That helps so much with recruiting. And, that's maybe a big part of why the alliance could be helpful for the Pac-12.
Recruiting implications are always something at play with college football in particular, but definitely college basketball as well. I feel like that's an even more hotly contested battle for the top recruits in the country, top talents in the country, especially trying to keep them from going to pursue a professional career overseas or in the NBA G League. So lots of good stuff there. Nick, hit us with your matchups.
Yeah, so my two matchups, starting with the ACC, would be against Florida State. Now, of course, the Ducks have a recent history with Florida State, both on and off the field. Back in 2015, they faced Florida State in the first ever college football playoff semifinal at the Rose Bowl. And, of course, that was a very memorable game with the two Heisman Trophy winners, Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota, going head-to-head. And the Ducks demolished them 59-20. So very fond memory for a lot of Duck fans, and I'm sure that they'd like to see that matchup over again. But also off the field, in 2017, Willie Taggart was at Oregon and decided to go to his dream job at Florida State. There was a lot of angst and hatred towards him and the Seminoles back then. And, of course, since then, the programs have gone in two different directions. Mario Cristobal has brought Oregon to Pac-12 championships the past couple of years, and Florida State, well, they've been struggling to get to a bowl game, and Willie Taggart was let go a couple of years ago. So definitely two teams in different directions right now, but the good thing about the alliance is that it's something that's probably going to, go for your the schedule won't actually be here until probably, the 25-26 season. So maybe Florida State will be better by then. And even if not, it's still a great, almost rivalry now, especially with what's happened the past 5 or 6 years. And then my Big Ten matchup, going off of a similar type of idea, is Wisconsin, because Oregon and Wisconsin have some history of their own in the past decade with a couple of great Rose Bowl matchups. In 2012, Darren Thomas and Russell Wilson were throwing the ball all over the Rose Bowl, and the Ducks ended up on top with that last-second spike not coming in quite before time ended. And then, of course, in 2020, the last real college football season, Oregon eked it out with Justin Herbert's 3 rushing touchdowns. So a couple of heartbreaking losses for Wisconsin that I'm sure they'd love to get revenge on, and some great memories again for Oregon fans that I'm sure they'd love to see them play Wisconsin again. So, whether it's in Camp Randall, whether it's in Eugene, I don't really think it would matter in that case. Either way, I mean, both have some great traditions with shout at the end of the third quarter with Oregon, with a jump around at the end of the third quarter with Wisconsin there. So, I mean, it really could go either way. I don't think, home or away would really matter with either of these matchups, but especially the Wisconsin one, it'd be a great matchup either way.
Dylan, what do you think about those matchups?
Yeah, I really like the Florida State one. The way that Coach Norvell's been recruiting, I expect him to be kind of back toward the top of college football, and especially the ACC in the next couple of years. And I think another part of that rivalry off the field that you were talking about is Oregon got Kayvon Thibodeau over Florida State. I think that's definitely something that kind of stings for Florida State fans, just like the Willie Taggart era, if you want to call it an era, kind of stings for Oregon fans. And then with Wisconsin, like you said, no matter where those matchups take place, I think the road fans will definitely travel. I went to the 2020 Rose Bowl and both fans showed up, especially Wisconsin fans. I was really surprised that they showed out in Pasadena like that. So they'll definitely be there in Autzen, and Oregon fans will definitely be there in Camp Randall. I would love the Wisconsin matchup just because I think, with the Rose Bowls, multiple Rose Bowl wins for Oregon, Wisconsin's going to kind of have that chip on their shoulder, and Oregon's going to have that, added motivation to keep that history going.
For sure. And also this alliance also goes towards men's and women's basketball as well. And Oregon and Wisconsin basketball played a lot in March Madness in the recent years. So, maybe they could do basketball as well along with football. That'd be pretty fun to see as well.
These are two really strong matchups that I really like as well. When you're looking at the ones that Nick has with Florida State and Wisconsin for Oregon, when you're looking at all the storylines with Florida State, obviously Taggart didn't have the best departure. I think a lot of people, especially like maybe in the Oregon community, might let their frustrations kind of cloud their judgment, where you're kind of looking at, sometimes you have to go through the downs to get to the ups. Things were really rough when Willie Taggart was the coach here in Eugene. Obviously towards the tail end, but he did bring Mario Cristobal all the way across the country to be here. He's now leading the Ducks in the right direction and has them in great shape, looking to defend the Pac-12 title once again and maybe even contend a little bit further. I also think when you're looking at the talent that lies in Florida, if you can play a game like this in Tallahassee, you can get some recruiting done, see some guys play on Friday night, and just the atmosphere out there has got to just be crazy. I've never been out to Florida, but that's definitely a place that would definitely be at the top of my list. And then Wisconsin, I just love looking at them and the brand of football that they play. I feel like they're really strong in the trenches, which would make it fun to watch against Mario Cristobal. And then, maybe not the strongest skill position in history, at least not off the top of my head. I'd probably have to do a little bit deeper research there. But
they have some great running backs they've had. And
that's true. Melvin Gordon went there, right? And then I don't know any other ones.
Yeah. Jonathan Taylor.
Yep.
There you go. Yeah, they would be. I'm sure they got some good ones coming up in the program as well. They're not really like a recruiting heavyweight, but I think that they're kind of one of those teams that's always solid in the Big Ten and on the upper tier. Anything else that you guys wanted to talk about with regard to the Wisconsin and Florida State matchup? Hypothetical for Oregon?
I think that's it.
I honestly feel like Oregon could realistically face Wisconsin in the Rose Bowl again this year. I think I've seen that mock for the bowl projections quite a bit this offseason already. So I wouldn't be super surprised if that happened again.
Yeah,
I definitely agree.
Yeah, with the way that Ohio State's looking like they're going to run the table again, it'll be cool to see who kind of gets the edge there, Wisconsin or Penn State, when you're looking at the rest of the Big Ten Conference. If that's all we had for those matchups, we can get into the tail end here of my hypothetical matchups. I was definitely having a little bit of a hard time thinking about some of these because you guys took some of the heavyweights, but that's okay. We can get a little creative here. I went with starting with the ACC matchup, North Carolina Tar Heels, led by Mack Brown. He's entering his third season here in 2021. I think that they're really interesting, even though they haven't had the best couple seasons, going 7-6 and 8-4 in his first 2 years. They're definitely heading in the right direction. I think that they had some really good running backs in the past year. And they were really fun to watch. And Mack Brown has done a really good job putting together some solid offenses. He's not playing this year over Sam Howell, but Drake May was a Bama commit at one point. He's one of their quarterbacks now, and Mack Brown flipped him. So that's certainly something that's very noteworthy, I think, on the recruiting trail when you're looking at how important recruiting is in the modern college football landscape. And then also, the Ducks have gotten some players out of North Carolina, I believe, and they have some really good talent there. And Mack Brown's been able to lock down the top players there in the 2021 and 2022 classes with defensive lineman Keyshawn Silver in 21, and then another defensive lineman, Travis Shaw, more recently here in 2022. I believe he committed just last week. They're looking at the number 21 class in the SI All-American team rankings, but I think the recruiting is definitely a good sign. And then Sam Howell is going to be, he's squarely in the mix for the Heisman this year, and he's been a phenomenal talent to watch. He was, oddly enough, a former Florida State commit, talking if you're going to look back at Dylan's matchup. So and then they're also like one of the only schools in the ACC that can challenge Clemson. So like they're definitely looking for someone there to step up and try to get a little bit more parity there in the ACC. And then my Big Ten matchup, this is the one that really took a lot more time for me. But I'm going to go with Iowa. Iowa's a team that I've gotten to see in person before when I went to the 2017 Rose Bowl, I believe, when they played Stanford. And that's when they still had Christian McCaffrey, and he was crazy fun to watch, literally housed the first kickoff for a touchdown. But kind of in a similar vein to Wisconsin, like Nick was talking about, I think that the identity of the Iowa program is, just really gritty, going to grind out games, grind you down, strong in the trenches as well. They're an absolute factory for tight ends with guys like George Kittle in the league, playing for my Niners, by the way. They're just really good at producing offensive linemen and defensive linemen, which I think could be a good test for how far has Mario Cristobal's physical brand of football really, come? How much has it taken hold here in Eugene? And they're a team that maybe won't blow you away on paper, but they're always going to be a tough out. And they're, you can never really sleep on them when you're coming to these games in the Big Ten. So those are our matchups for the, potential, future alliance era, if you will. Just kind of wanted to check in with you guys. Do you have any reactions or comments for those matchups?
Yeah, I love that Iowa pick that you had, especially. I mean, if that was at Kinnick Stadium, you can have one of the best traditions in college football with the wave that they got going there to the Children's Hospital. That's as good as it gets. So that'd be awesome to go to Kinnick and see that. And then, North Carolina's great. I'm a little surprised we didn't go with Miami with Mario Cristobal's alma mater. That would be a really interesting matchup as well. But, there are a lot of interesting ones with the Alliance, and that's what makes it so cool. There can be a lot of mixing and matching, and we can figure all that out later. But
yeah, I think Miami is a really good one that I maybe should have given more thought to, but I feel like just Manny Diaz hasn't really put things together as well in the past couple, years. I think this storyline with Cristobal would be really good, really a good one to monitor if we were to see that down the road. Brian talking about Ducks versus Penn State, that's definitely a good one. That's one that Dylan brought to the table. So good idea there. Similar thinking. And then Dylan, did you have anything you wanted to add about these potential matchups?
Yeah, and if you're talking about college basketball, I love the idea of Oregon playing against North Carolina because North Carolina is kind of in an interesting time now. Roy Williams isn't the coach anymore, kind of in a new era, but they're still the blue blood North Carolina. They're still going to get the top players in the country. So, and Oregon has that history against North Carolina. Shall we talk about the 2017 Final Four? No, Nick says no. So, and they played recently as well. I believe that was overseas. I can't remember exactly where that was. But, Oregon would definitely like to get some wins over North Carolina. Playing at the Dean Center would be huge for an Oregon program that's already starting to get a lot of five-star talent. Could get more that way. And then Iowa. Yeah, I'd love that football matchup. They played recently in basketball as well. Women's basketball, Iowa's on the rise with Caitlin Clark as well. So that could be a really fun matchup. But for football, I mean, Kirk Ferentz has kind of built his football program similar to the way that Mario Cristobal is Oregon. Like you said, very physical in the trenches, ground and pound kind of stuff. So I would really love to see that matchup for sure.
Maybe we'll have to do another one of these for men's and women's basketball. I think there's definitely a lot of intriguing matchups there, particularly with the ACC and basketball. But the Big Ten is really well-rounded. I've said that before, so that presents some intrigue as well. If you're watching this on replay on YouTube, definitely drop a comment and let us know what ACC, Pac-12, Big Ten cross-conference matchups you want to see. Before we get out of here, is there anything else that you guys wanted to add about these matchups?
Well, I can't wait to talk about the basketball stuff. I'm a big hoops guy. So, Oregon against Duke or against Syracuse, Louisville, and then in basketball for Big Ten, Michigan State and Michigan, those would be huge as well. Michigan for football would be interesting too. Playing at the Big House, that would be a lot of fun.
Right on.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there are so many good opportunities in basketball, both men's and women's, for both the ACC and Big Ten. I mean, a lot of people thought the Big Ten was like best basketball conference, men's basketball conference at least last year, and then Pac-12 kind of took it to them a little bit in the tournament. So, it'd be nice to be able to play them, in some sort of tournament challenge like the ACC and Big Ten do right now. So hopefully they can do something like that.
Yeah, lots of fun stuff coming here in the future with regard to college athletics as a whole, particularly with this new alliance. Before we get out of here, Dylan, where can people find more of your work? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Ducks Digest. I'm pumping out stuff all the time. I'm DRK Sports News on Twitter. That's not Dr. K Sports News. I'm also on Instagram at Dylan Rubin King. And you can find my website. My new website is Transfer Portal College Football. If you know the guys at No Context CFB, they worked with us on our website as well. We're pumping out some fun stuff as the season really officially starts in 3 days. So it's going to be a lot of fun stuff coming up.
Nick, where can people find you?
Yeah, well, you can find me right there at NickBat22 on Twitter. And I will be writing at Ducks Digest right here with Max and Dylan. So it should be a lot of fun.
Right on. Yeah, and if you're watching this on YouTube, kindly ask that you subscribe to the channel. Helps me do my thing on YouTube, helps us do our thing, and get you guys more awesome content. We're trying to do more of these live streams, Q&As type of deals. Really want to get more input from you, the fans, and the Oregon community to tailor our content to the questions that you have and the conversations that you want to have. So that's all we have for this one. Thanks for tuning in.